friends, when the mall closes and the crowds disappear, the darkness reveals its secrets. These are 3 terrifying tales where ordinary shopping trips turn into nightmares. From eerie fitting rooms to ghostly encounters, discover what happens when the mall becomes a place of horror. I will see you at the end. Enjoy. Jenna's car broke down at the worst possible time, and now she was stranded at the mall after closing hours. But when the lights flickered back on, she realized she wasn't alone. Jenna cursed her luck as she stared at her dead phone. She had stayed late at the mall hoping to find the perfect dress for her friend's wedding. Now, it was past midnight, and the mall was eerily empty. The dim lights of the parking lot flickered ominously, casting long, wavering shadows. She was about to head back inside to find a phone when the lights in the entire mall suddenly turned on, one by one, illuminating every store as if it were the middle of the day. Jenna hesitated, goosebumps rising on her arms. The mall was supposed to be closed. She pushed open the glass doors and stepped into the main corridor. The normally bustling space was deserted. Her footsteps echoed as she walked past the storefronts, all dark and locked up tight. Suddenly she heard it, a faint shuffling sound coming from behind her. Jenna whipped around, but there was no one there. She quickened her pace, her eyes darting nervously to the shadows. The shuffling sound grew louder, closer. She broke into a run, heading towards the exit. But as she rounded the corner, she skidded to a stop. Standing in front of her was a mannequin, dressed in a tattered, outdated outfit. Jenna's heart raced. She could have sworn it hadn't been there a second ago. The lights flickered again, plunging the mall into darkness. When they came back on, the mannequin was gone. Jenna's breath hitched. She sprinted for the exit, but it felt like the corridors were stretching endlessly. The sound of footsteps echoed all around her, but they didn't belong to her. They were heavier, more deliberate. She dared to glance over her shoulder and froze in terror. The mannequin was now directly behind her, its lifeless face twisted into a sinister grin. Jenna screamed and bolted, adrenaline surging through her veins. She didn't stop until she reached the exit doors. She slammed into them only to find them locked. Desperation clawed at her as she banged on the glass, screaming for help.
Hello?
The mannequin was closing in, its head tilting unnaturally to the side. In her panic, Jenna spotted a maintenance door slightly ajar. She raced towards it, yanking it open just as the mannequin reached for her. Slamming the door shut behind her, she locked it and collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. The sound of the mannequin's fists pounding on the door echoed through the small dark room. Jenna's heart pounded in her ears as she fumbled for her phone, praying for a signal. The pounding stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. Then, from the darkness behind her, came the faint metallic click of something unlocking. Mall security had seen their fair share of lost children, but nothing could prepare Officer Daniels for what he found in the play area after closing time. The mall was quiet after hours, the usual chaos of the day replaced by an eerie stillness. Officer Daniels was on his nightly patrol, making sure everything was in order before locking up. He always made a point to check the children's play area, a place that was a magnet for lost toys and occasionally lost kids. As he approached the play area, he noticed something strange. A single child sat alone on the floor, staring intently at the ground. The boy looked to be around 6 years old, dressed in a simple blue shirt and jeans. Daniels frowned. The mall had been closed for over an hour. How had this child been left behind? "Hey, buddy," Daniels called out gently, walking towards the boy. "Are you lost? Where are your parents?" The boy didn't respond. Didn't even look up. He just kept staring at the ground, his small hands clenched into fists. Daniels knelt down beside him, trying to catch his eye. "Hey, it's okay," Daniels said, reaching out to touch the boy's shoulder. "We'll find your—" The boy suddenly snapped his head up, and Daniels recoiled in shock. The child's eyes were pitch black, like deep, empty voids. his mouth twisted into a wide, unnatural grin. "Play with me," the boy whispered, his voice low and hollow. Daniel staggered back, his heart racing. He scrambled to his feet, instinctively reaching for his radio. But as he brought it to his mouth, the boy vanished. One moment he was there, and the next, the space was empty. Daniel spun around, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The play area was silent, the only sound the faint hum of the mall's ventilation system. His hands shook as he tried to make sense of what he'd seen. He heard a soft giggle behind him, like the tinkling of a small bell. He turned, and there was the boy again, standing at the entrance to the play area. The black eyes, the wide grin, they were even more horrifying in the dim light. "Come play with me," the boy said again, his voice echoing in the still air. Daniels took a step back, his mind racing. This wasn't possible. He was alone in the mall. He had to be. But the boy was there, as real as anything. Without thinking, Daniels bolted for the exit. He didn't stop running until he was outside under the harsh lights of the parking lot. He radioed for backup, his voice trembling as he reported the incident. When the other officers arrived, they searched the entire mall, but there was no sign of the boy. No missing child reports, no security footage, nothing. But as Daniels left the mall that night, he could still hear the boy's eerie giggle echoing in his mind and the words, "Come play with me," haunting his every step. Mia thought she found the perfect dress for her big date. Mia had been shopping for hours, desperate to find the perfect dress for her upcoming date. The mall was packed, and after combing through countless stores, she finally found it. A sleek, black dress that fit like a glove. Excited, Mia made her way to the fitting room, eager to see how the dress looked in the mirror. The fitting rooms were tucked away in a quiet corner of the store, the noise of the mall fading as she stepped inside. She closed the door behind her and slipped into the dress. It was perfect. Elegant, flattering, everything she had hoped for. But as she turned to admire herself in the mirror, something caught her eye. The reflection in the mirror wasn't quite right. The room behind her and the reflection looked different, darker, older. The wallpaper was peeling and the light above flickered weakly, casting long shadows. Mia blinked, convinced she was imagining things. But when she looked back at the mirror, the strange reflection remained. Her breath caught in her throat as she slowly turned around to look at the room behind her. To her horror, the fitting room had changed. The bright modern room she had entered was gone, replaced by a dilapidated, decrepit space that looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. The walls were covered in grime, and the air was thick with dust. Panic surged through Mia as she reached for the door, but it wouldn't budge. She pounded on it, screaming for help, but her voice seemed to be swallowed by the oppressive silence. The mirror in front of her remained unchanged, reflecting a pristine fitting room that no longer existed. Tears streamed down her face as she backed away from the door. The light above her flickered and then went out completely, plunging the room into darkness. Mia's heart pounded in her chest as she fumbled for her phone, but there was no signal, no way to call for help. Suddenly she heard it, a soft whisper coming from the shadows. It was faint at first, barely audible, but it grew louder, more insistent. "Leave," the voice hissed. "You don't belong here." Mia spun around, trying to find the source of the voice, but the room was pitch black. She could feel the walls closing in, the air growing colder with each passing second. The whispers became more urgent, more frantic. "Leave, leave, leave." Mia pounded on the door with renewed desperation, her screams mingling with the whispers. Finally, with a loud creak, the door swung open, and Mia stumbled out into the store. She collapsed onto the floor, gasping for breath. When she looked back, the fitting room was back to normal, bright and clean, as if nothing had happened. But Mia knew better. She grabbed her things and fled the store, leaving the dress behind. As she hurried out of the mall, She could still hear the whispers echoing in her ears, urging her to leave and never come back. The next time you visit the mall, remember these stories. When the crowds leave and the lights dim, what might be lurking in the shadows? Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed these tales, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that will keep you looking over your shoulder. If you liked that video, click on this one to my right. It's another 3-pack of horror. And don't forget to subscribe and like, comment, and share. It is much appreciated. I will see you on the next one. Sweet nightmares.